just getting some gravel and sand from this kind of little sandbar along the creek down here. Do you ever have those days where it just feels like everything is falling apart? Sassy, our very sweet dog, all in, I think, 2 nights, but most of it was in 1 night, got in her head to dig something up right where we walk out of the house. And I'm filling it in with sand and gravel, hoping that as the grass grows back, that will disappear. Today's been one of those days for me. Nothing really bad has happened. It's just been extra stressful. Stress and fear and anxiety can be so crushing and debilitating. I wanted to share with you 2 things, kind of 2 principles that have been helpful to me today and times before. The first one is remind yourself of things that are true. Tell yourself things that are true. That's the first one. The second one is to take action. I'm putting the garden to bed, so to speak, and what I'm doing is just going down these beds, tearing out weeds, and throwing them on top of the beds in these long, kind of linear, shallow, what you could call compost piles. You can see I've done this where the potatoes were. There were a ton of weeds in the potatoes, but now I have 3 fairly neat remade beds ready to sleep until next year. If you came here just looking for homesteading stuff, I won't apologize, but I guess I could say I'm sorry. I want to actually have this thing that I devote so much time to be more meaningful than just projects. And that's why we share so much of our lives and our story, and why we sometimes make videos like this. Because I really believe this stuff we do out here is worth doing, homesteading and animal husbandry and growing food. But I also know that, just from my own life, I know that you can't really achieve any goals without being emotionally healthy. So, the first thing, tell yourself things that are true. What does that mean? It means just what it is. It means tell yourself what's true. Remind yourself of what's real, true, and hopeful. For those of you who might think of this as the power of positive thinking and be resistant to the idea, I would say this. We talk to ourselves inside our heads at all times. Nearly all people do this. Constant, often verbal, inner dialogue. Everyone does it. It's normal, I think. The truth of the matter is that you can choose what you say to yourself. And if you find yourself always running your inner dialogue text in regards to terrible things that might happen in your future, constantly reminding yourself of what you're ashamed and afraid of, you might need to find a new friend. And what I mean by that is, if you spent all your time with the person who said those things to you, you would be miserable and you would want to find a new friend. But we do this to ourselves. So changing how you talk to yourself and what you say to yourself and about yourself is one of the best things I think you can do to deal with stress and anxiety, both over time every day and in a moment when you're really struggling.
Look at that volcano. I'm digging a hole in it so it's like a volcano.
It is like a volcano. Oh my goodness, what is going on up here? What we have here, this is funny looking, is a, I won't yet say failed biochar experiment. It is a biochar experiment in progress.
A volcano.
What I did is I lit a fire almost a week ago now and completely buried it in thick sawdust. And it's actually been burning under the sawdust, sometimes popping up its little smoking head through the edge of the pile, and I cover it back up. It's been burning for a week basically. My goal here is to burn this sawdust inside the pile and in a low oxygen or nearly oxygen absent environment, create these little microparticles of charcoal, which then we can spread over the garden and it'll function as biochar.
Where's the charcoal? Where's charcoal?
I'll let you know how it turns out.
Charcoal?
Charcoal is wood that has had everything but the carbon burned out of it. What have you been working on?
Nothing.
Nothing? You mean you didn't do the job I told you to?
I did.
Grace has been checking for eggs everywhere, all the various places that hens still might be laying. I caught one more hen today and put it in, and she also is giving them grit and calcium carbonate.
Oh, Dad, can you move all white sawdust out?
The second idea here in getting out of being stuck in fear and anxiety is taking action. That seems kind of generic, I know, but it's very generic. It could mean a lot of things. But the thing is, it's so easy to get stuck that sometimes doing anything is the way to get unstuck. I see taking action kind of in two categories. One is taking a really dramatic action to fix some of the things causing anxiety. You know, starting a business, working extra, investing in your relationship. That's one thing, fixing the disorder. But I think for many of us, sometimes the action actually needs to directly address the fear and anxiety, not try to fix the problems that might be causing it. And so sometimes taking action just means calling someone on the phone and telling them you're having struggles. It might mean, literally, it might be as simple as getting up and doing 20 jumping jacks, or just running and changing the way your body's moving. That can have a dramatic effect on anxiety and stress. It might mean getting up and spending 10 minutes sitting in silence apart from everyone else in your family or workplace, if that's possible. I had a nurse once, a very experienced elderly lady, very wise, tell me how to deal with stress in nursing. She said, if you're ever so stressed out you can't handle it, go in the bathroom for 5 minutes, turn off the light, and sit there with your eyes closed and get yourself calm. That's taking action. It can make a really big difference. The point here is don't get stuck. Get up and do something. And it might be really simple, but don't get stuck. I'm getting some protection from the rain from a giant sunflower, albeit not very much. Hey guys, let's go help Mama carry groceries up.
Okay.
Come on, let's go.
Look at my pile.
Look at your pile. Good job. Let's go.
That's the hardest place. I stuck in the hardest place that I don't know.
Get out your stress and anxiety by slamming things around. What were you hitting in here?
The Dijon mustard.
Was that your head?
positive ways I deal with stress. One of the main ways, it's like stress usually for me comes from fear, or the other way it comes is like from being overwhelmed, usually from like everyone needing me at one time and not knowing how to respond. So anyway, I think the positive ways that you can deal with stress can be a lot of different things. If my stress is motivated from fear, I honestly, like, one of the main things I can do is remember like God's promises, and those actually really comfort me. The other thing I can do is like follow the fear path all the way to the end, and then it's like, oh, okay, there's nothing to really be afraid of. The other thing, I think sometimes vegging out is actually a good thing, so I think it can be bad or good way to deal with stress, but I think it's choosing to veg out. It's not just vegging out because you're out of control. It's because you're like, okay, I can't do anything about this. I have no control over this situation right now. What's up? So I'm gonna set this aside and and do something productive or do something that's relaxing. One of my favorite ways to deal with stress, though, is to either go outside, be with the animals, work hard, or exercise. But those things aren't as readily available to me right now, which is actually stressing me out a lot. But I really feel like it's my responsibility to figure out how to get it back into my life.
I want to stir it.
You want to stir it? You can stir it. Go for it. You'll be really good at that. Also, just remove stress from your life. Anywhere that it's logical, possible, practical, just kick it right out of your life. Too many activities, quit them. Too many responsibilities that aren't really necessary, stop doing them. Too much comparison from Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, etc., stop watching it. I really, really, really miss going outside, though, and exercising. It's really hard with Joyful's leg and the baby at the same time. But I just ordered something that I think is going to help me.
Ooh. This was yummy.
You're doing so good.
Babby Bob.
Babby Bob. Don't you love how he calls him that?
What's he doing?
Watch this. Well, he's kind of distracted now.
Focus, Wilder.
Focus.
He wants to grab the camera. He's too excited.
Focus, Wilder.
Okay. Get up here if you're sitting up.
Good job! Yay!
Sitting up all on by yourself. This design, as I've told you before, we are closing this out at the end of this week. So Saturday night, I'm gonna say midnight, no, probably 9 p.m. These are gonna shut down. We're not gonna sell any more of these shirts for now, and we will have a new design coming out soon. This has been another great day on the homestead. Thank you for joining us.